That's going to give you access to this entire slide deck along with all the resources in it. So please feel free to jot that down, bit.ly/S M remote. And you might see some names in the chat too that you recognize. So if you feel like connecting with the people afterwards to debrief or share ideas, absolutely. If you know the people, go for it. We welcome that Spring Math community working together. All right, so we're going to jump right in. I'm going to only talk for about 20-25 minutes, and then we're going to open it up the floor just for questions. So getting started. As many of you know, there's many different types of interventions in Spring Math. Here are the recommendations from Dr. Amanda Vanderheyden and Dr. Paul Meiskens. And all of this webinar specifically is 45 minutes. We did a longer 1.5-hour webinar last week with many Spring Math coaches. I also have that linked in here, so you can hear from Dr. Amanda and Dr. Paul regarding more in depth about their suggestions. I always like to stress to educators though, Spring Math is flexible and we always trust your professional judgment. So that comes into play when we start talking about interventions, progress monitoring, score entry. So you'll hear me talk about a lot about your professional judgment, and we trust you. So the first type is obviously individual interventions. If you have individual interventions going on, keep them going. If you want to use your Google Classroom, you can share specific pages out of that individual intervention with the student. Some teachers are telling me, you know, Ashley, we're only meeting with our students Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for math. I'm only going to be able to do the intervention 3 times that week. That is absolutely fine. Doing anything at this point is better than nothing. So keep those individual interventions going. Some teachers are also just sharing, honestly, the entire packet with their student. And they're letting their student kind of work through it, meeting with the teacher for 10, 15 minutes a day, ideally every day, but we know that's not the case. And then working through, reflecting, talking about this conceptual understanding. That is one way you can keep going with Spring Math. Another way, which Dr. Paul is thinking there's probably going to be an increase of this, is the small group feature. So if you're a teacher or coach and you have more students on a similar skill than just one, the system has a little pop-up on the screen that says, we recommend doing a small group. So in this case, instead of doing an individual intervention with each student, it will give you a group of anywhere from 3 to 6 students that you could do a small group with. Ideally, it's probably around 3 or 4 students you're working with. You could probably break a group of 6 up into 2 smaller groups. And again, kind of the same deal. You pass out the materials via Google Classroom. You meet with the students with Zoom or Google Meet. You know, maybe share strategies, and you might have to modify the intervention. We understand that. You know, maybe you're going to start one day with conceptual understanding and then work into the practice time. And then maybe the next time you start with more practice time and wrap up with conceptual understanding and reflection. We understand that you're going to modify it. Again, we trust your professional judgment. And then tied to all this, so obviously individual, small group, keep those going. Class-wide, this is where it gets a little tricky. Many of our users and many of our schools have class-wide interventions going on right now. Obviously, peer tutoring is a little tricky, especially at the younger grades. So what Dr. Amanda and Dr. Paul are suggesting is a multitude of things. The first one, we had the question come in, and I know this is a very rare case scenario. A teacher said some of the parents are willing to do the peer tutoring at home. And of course, Dr. Amanda and Dr. Paul say, go for it. If the parents are willing and have the time and they want to do that, go for it. I'm sitting here going, absolutely not. Parents are working from home, or parents, you know, a lot of students don't have that availability. So if you do not have or do not want to put that burden on parents, we suggest going into the support portal and pulling out either the guided practice protocols, which are I'll show you where those are actually in just a little bit, or you can do a time trial. Many of our teachers are just even putting on their online calendar for their students just 10 minutes of Spring Math every day, and some of it's actually become just reviewing past skills. That is an easy way to start, especially if you're new to the remote learning. If you want to say, you know what, we're not going to continue with the last skill, we're going to go back and review a few, and maybe you can review one or two skills each week versus just one skill per week. Maybe you can do two or three. Um, it's really up to you again. And then, on Fridays, if you can collect progress monitoring scores, enter those into the system, you will be able to see if your class moves on or not. Obviously, if you're reviewing, don't enter in the scores tied to a newer skill. Wait till your class gets there. But a lot of teachers are doing so many good things, just keeping a consistent schedule for those students saying, we're still going to do spring math. The question came in yesterday going, what about the students who don't send me their progress monitoring score? Or what about the students who don't have printers? So we'll tie into that in a little bit. But just a heads up, we are anticipating the coach dashboard, the data will have a lot of lurking variables around it. So you might have a lack of progress monitoring scores every Friday. Mark those students absent. We understand that that's going to be the scenario for most users at this point. So talking about class-wide, for those of you that are saying, yep, Ashley, we're doing class-wide, what do I do next? So we have two options. You can go on the support portal and you can get the skill acquisition lessons. Those are, as you can see on the screen, those build knowledge. They are more teacher-led. They definitely have the conceptual understanding built in, and it's more teacher-guided, student kind of following, sharing ideas. This can work with both doing a whole class or doing with small groups or individuals. I love the skill acquisition, especially in this scenario. Some teachers asked, can I record myself sharing about the skill acquisition? You absolutely can. If you want to have that shared, have, a link to the students who watch the video and then they practice a few on their own, send you back, some information, their strategies. If they want to start a discussion on Google Classroom or Schoology, absolutely go with it. If you're working on a skill, let's say you are deciding, we're going to go and we're going to review some past skills. Your class has probably already mastered those skills. You just want to review it. I would suggest then a time trial. The time trial lessons, I'll show you where those are as well. Those just increase the fluency and accuracy. So those are great for those skills that you've already done, or if your class is already at or above the instructional target. So to get to those, this is the part that you probably are curious about, right? You log into Spring Math. In the upper right-hand corner, you have the option to click support. So click support. That's going to take you to our support portal. In the support portal, you have two places. The key one right now is resources for teachers. So click on resources for teachers. And there's two places you can go, class-wide or individual. Again, those acquisition ones are right under class-wide. So that's our suggestion right now. If you're deciding to kind of move ahead or continue on with skills, pull those skill acquisition lessons and you can see on your dashboard which skill they're working on. So I'll go back to my spring math. They're working on sums to 6. I would pull out sums to 6. And again, if you're saying, no, Ashley, I'm just going to continue with the protocol that's already in Spring Math, you can, but you are going to have to modify it quite a bit because of the peer tutoring. But instead, you can pull this out, and this is kind of, it's set up to be an individual intervention or small group intervention. You're just going to modify it to be for the whole class. So you're kind of talking through the problems, you got troubleshooting. You can start with conceptual understanding if you want that to be the starting point. You can share these pages with students if they want to try a few on their own and come back with questions. Students can monitor their progress at home if they choose to. They don't have to use this sheet either. I've seen students use just, scrap paper at home, setting goals each day. And then you have your practice with the teacher. So this would be where the teacher leads the discussion, or if they're recorded, they're leading the discussion on the recording. And then the student practices the following problems. And then, of course, there's time for error correction and self-reflection. Again, that can be modified to fit your schedule and how the teacher wants to do that. I'm assuming there's probably 20 different ideas out there right now of how that's going to be worked. We support you. We understand there's going to be lots of ways to do that, and probably whatever you choose is a great idea. So that's the skill acquisition. If you are saying, you know what, Ashley, I'm going to do the review. I'm going to go back to skills they've already done. Then under resources for teachers, you're going to want to pull out the time trial lessons. So that is, again, you can find the same one. I'm just going to pull Sum 6 again, and you'll see there's conceptual understanding still built in, troubleshooting. You have everything you need, but this is going to be more focused on the accuracy and the fluency. So definitely it's going to be slightly different, but again, cater to their skill that they're at. And again, as a teacher, you can share just specific pages with students, or you can share the whole packet, which obviously would include the answer key. But many students do appreciate having the answer key at home to check as well. So I wanted to share that with you. That's kind of the big nugget right there of how to get started starting even today. What's the best idea? Number one, get that time on the student's schedule. Number two, decide which route you want to do, and then get started. All right. The other pieces, this came in from a kindergarten teacher yesterday. She was asking, they're doing a lot of choice boards where they, tell the students you have 6 choices or 4 choices for math today and 5 choices for reading. Pick which 1 or 2 you want to try today or tomorrow. I suggested she check out the games and word problems also on the support portal. There's also flashcards there and response cards. Um, you can pull those and link those into choice boards as well. That is a great choice for any grade, but especially for maybe classes that right now are not at the ability to read and write on their own. So definitely check out the games and word problems. As a teacher, if you again want to record yourself explaining the game or explaining the word problems, you can have students then, respond back with videos, respond back with just, you know, drawings of their explanation. There's lots of ways to get responses back from students that are not necessarily written out. So definitely want to suggest checking out those. Those can also be found under the support portal. If you guys go to Spring Math again, support, it's games and word problems. So definitely check those out there. So I wanted to share that with you. So those are that's a lot of information right now, right? So definitely take that in, process it, come back to the slide deck, check it out again, and maybe troubleshoot where you want to start. Now, this is where I think a lot of people are going, okay, yesterday I know Schoology was having issues, so was Seesaw and many other learning management systems. I think they're working out the kinks and getting their servers up and running. Spring Math has had no outages, so you are good to log into Spring Math anytime. But use your LMS. That is whatever you're using, whether it's Google Classroom, Schoology, Seesaw, whatever one you're using, that's where you can share those intervention packets, share the pages, share the games, push those out to students and parents. I love Google Classroom because it's so easy to have public or private comments. So if you have your class and they want to share their strategy publicly, they could share their strategy with the class. If they have a private comment saying, for me, Miss Pro, I really don't understand how to do this skill. I feel like I get one and then I have trouble with the next one. All right, let's set up an office hours time, right? And then an easy way, especially for grades 3 and up, they can enter in their progress monitoring scores on Friday. If you just want to set up, and I'm going to go into my own Google Classroom, I set up just a quick every Friday place where students can come in and enter in their progress monitoring score. And I attach the PDF of their progress monitoring there. Some teachers have asked, my students don't have a printer. What do I do? Great question, right? Again, professional judgment. If your students are thinking, you know what, I'm going to write it on the screen, I have a tablet, or I'm using something like DocHub to edit the PDF on my screen, you can adjust the time as you feel needed. If you're thinking that they're going to be writing the problems down on paper and then coming back or taking a picture of their work and submitting it to you, if you want to modify the time, we understand that. We understand at this point right now some of the scores are going to be all over the place. So we trust you in that. Ideally, the students could print something off. We know that's not the case, but we just wanted to let you know we trust your professional judgment on that. Another question came in regarding progress monitoring going, What if I only get 10 scores out of my 30 submitted on Friday, or even responses from 10 students? That's okay right now. I believe one of the like leaders in remote learning, distance learning came out earlier last week and said, hey, educators, here's the deal. Especially when you're getting started, you can plan Monday, Friday lesson plan, cut that in half for what your real expectations should be, and then cut it in half again for what students will probably be able to do. So you think about that, we're really asking a lot of them at this time to adjust and flow. So even though we might have what we think is scaled back already, it's probably still going to be a lot for the students in the first week or two. So if you have students who are not, let's say I do get a few responses from students, I'm going to enter in their scores, and then I might have to mark students absent in the system just like I'm doing now. And that's okay. We understand that that might be the case. And then, you can choose then, do you want to continue with that skill or do you want to teach it again? And the likelihood is you'll probably teach it again because you'll be missing so many scores and the median's going to have, only the scores of those who are submitting them to you. So just an FYI. This is also some great resources. As you know, I shared this link with you. It's bit.ly/S, capital M for Spring Math, and then remote, all lowercase. That will give you access to this entire slide presentation. My coworker Troy is delightful. He created for a district here in Minnesota. They had some teachers who were brand new to Google Classroom. He created some really great tutorials. You can find them at this link here. You just go to Spring Math or sourcewelltech.org, and then you scroll down and Google Classroom, view our Schoology basics. He's also building, I believe right now, some Schoology videos. He's a Schoology ambassador, expert, so those should be linked here soon as well. So if you have teachers or student teachers or even paraprofessionals or secretaries who are curious about what systems are being used, you can share that with them, this information. I definitely like to share that with you. Use it. I asked Troy, can I for sure share this? He goes, absolutely. More people who can use it, the better. I also linked in here, and it's a little hard to see. I used to do Google Classroom webinars. So I linked in here a step-by-step webinar. It's, again, a slide deck. So if you have teachers who want to just kind of peek through it, pull the things they need, it's a little bit out of date. It's from last year, but for the basic user, it covers everything they need. And then this is great. This is a parent guide to Google Classroom. So as most people on here are using Google Classroom, this is a great place if you need to send this home with parents. It's just a link. You can download it. It's easy steps to just get started with Google Classroom. So I like to just share that with everyone. This was created by, I believe it was a teacher or a student teacher here in Minnesota, or they found it and just shared it out with the many of us educators around here. So it was open. They said we could share it. I'm doing that for you. I talked about Seesaw a little bit because I did have a kindergarten teacher on the webinar yesterday. Again, not for now. Oh, and I saw a question come in and I'll address it in just a little bit. If you have younger classes who are using Seesaw, which I do know many kindergarten, first and second grade teachers are using Seesaw, Seesaw's a really great way for students to video record themselves explaining their math thinking. Really easy for them to just annotate over a PDF with like no issues. It's Seesaw's a really great one for the younger grades. So I just wanted to mention that if you have teachers who are wanting to try it, great. I can get connected with them and talk them through. I've done Seesaw trainings before. But for right now, I know most people are using Google Classroom and Schoology, so I'll kind of skip ahead. Flipgrid is also another option if you have students who, I guess this is the best way to say it. If you're deciding to do spring math, maybe asynchronously, so you're saying, well, Ashley, we really don't know if we'll be able to meet with the students every day or even a couple times a week. We're planning on doing spring math a little more teacher started, student follow-up, teacher connects back and forth. A really great free option is Flipgrid. They also started here in Minnesota and then were recently purchased by Microsoft. But what it is a video platform for students to upload to discussions, They can add emojis. It's a really safe, secure way. It's really easy to get started. They have like templates already created. So if you do have teachers who are saying, you know what, I am not going to be able to touch and meet with each student during the week, but I need a way to hear their thinking. This is a really great way to do it too, especially in a remote atmosphere. So I like to share this. Again, you don't have to get started with this week, next week, even this year, just maybe for future planning. All right, so let's talk a little bit about meeting virtually. I saw most people said that they're using either Zoom or Google Meet, which is great. Obviously, Google Meet is very popular because it comes with your G Suite for education accounts. So every educator, especially anyone using Google Classroom, Google Meet's a really easy one to integrate. Zoom, I believe, is now offering the Pro version free. The only things I would recommend, they're all pretty same. They're all really the same. They each have different features. Some are better than others. Um, Really just, set some guidelines with students, the basics like have headphones, mute yourself when you're not talking, use the chat feature, go through the basics, make sure you're not in a bedroom. That's kind of a weird one to address with students. But especially just like making sure students are in a public space when they're on a meeting. That is slightly hard for some students to do that because they also have parents who are working in the house. But ideally, they're in a public space. The other two things with it too, I know Zoom, just double check that your teachers are using their district email. A recent district actually got in a little bit of trouble last week. Not near here, but I believe it was out on the West Coast. They had a bunch of their teachers who were really antsy to get started and get meeting with students, and the district was still in the process of setting up their Zoom for their district. And they joined using personal emails, which obviously the intent was pure of heart and really, admirable. But it becomes a huge student privacy data issue, and concerns from parents came out of why is my student getting advice from a personal email. So just be sure to check with teachers, like log out of your personal email, make sure you're logged in with just your district access and join that way. So really any of these on the screen are great ways to connect with students. Google Meet, I know, recently put in a feature where if a teacher starts a Google Meet and then the teacher leaves, the Google Meet should close now afterwards. Before, they were finding out that students could stay in the Meet and hang out with each other while the teacher is not in it. So I believe they did put a fix in late last week for that. So anyone using Google Meet or Zoom, there should be constant updates coming. Here are two links too I also like to share with you. This first link is just a tips and tricks created by one of my friends. She was a math and science teacher here in Minnesota. She now does a lot of education technology, and I asked her, I said, Megan, can I borrow this? And she goes, absolutely, share it with anyone. Just some video conferencing etiquette. So this is she just pulled things together and just put them all in here for both Google Meet, Google Zoom. She has tips in here, comparisons, Zoom chat, just really great. I love this. And I said, can I share it? She goes, absolutely. This is also another link in here. So I will be sure in my follow-up to send you a link to this entire slide deck. So you'll have access to everything in here so far. This was a teacher created here in Minneapolis. He wanted students to be sure they knew how to sign into Google Meet using their iPads because they were an iPad school. And so he kind of built a step-by-step way to do it. They also use Canvas, not Google Classroom or Schoology, but really it's a similar platform. So this will all be in there. You have access with it. So kind of think about too, what materials might your teachers need or want. Absolutely share anything you found in here with them. All right, tip four. So I have 5 tips and then I'm going to be quiet. Tip 4 is taking care of yourself. Definitely do mental health checks with both your staff and your students. We cannot stress that enough. I know this is a beyond stressful time for many people, but definitely think about how can you take care of yourself. And one of our friends and a professor at the University of Minnesota here, Dr. Jennifer Clifton, she put together a video series just on guided meditations for teachers during times of uncertainty. So she just put this together. She sent it to me and said, "Hey, I know you're working with lots of teachers around the country. Feel free to share this out. They're short, they're sweet, and they're just, I did one. You feel great afterwards. I'm just going to say it. So definitely feel free to share this out. Share it with students. It's great. Okay, tip number 5. So I'm on my last tip. Ask for help. We are here to help you. Again, if you're in spring math and you are just not sure what to do, 2 options. You can click on your name again, click on support, go to the support portal, which I'm already in. And once you're there, you can do the submit a request, especially if you have a question about a PDF or one of the protocols or an intervention packet. Just click submit a request. And then you'll fill out this area. So obviously you're asking a spring math question and you'll fill out the area. And if you can add the attachment or the file, that helps us a lot. And just, subject, spring math remote learning question. Add the description, your name, your district, and then submit it. And our awesome support team will get a hold of you right away. They're really good. I would say under 24 hours to get an answer. Whereas if you email me or maybe my coworker Lynn, we're often doing trainings and we have our email turned off, just like right now. I am in trainings almost all the rest of the week, so I will not be super available for answers right away. This is the easiest way to do it. Or you can always email support@springmath.com, and that goes also to our support team. So really, that's the best way. If you have any questions at all, put those to the support team. They can get answers for you. All right. I have additional resources here. If you want to watch the recording of Dr. Amanda and Dr. Paul sharing their expertise, remember their expertise is definitely in the research around MTSS, RTI, and success with intervention. They do not address tons of tips regarding LMS virtual meetings because that is not their forte, and that's okay. This is really just great tips though on what's best practice right now. You can click on that link and you can watch the 1.5 hour meeting. Otherwise, there's detailed notes found on this next slide. On this meeting note, so we really summarized a good job of what Dr. Paul and Dr. Amanda were sharing, but also on here, as you can see, sorry, I have so many things open. I need to start closing or my tabs. We have, a lot more information than you probably care to have in here, but we have a lot of additional resources for online learning, including from Paul put in here some things from NAS and the Department of Ed. So definitely check that out as well. This is a summary of the webinar, so you can kind of check that out. And then this is from our friends that at the Minnesota Department of Ed. They put together just a short playlist of videos to support special ed students during this distant or remote learning time. So I wanted to share that with you because I know many of you are working with special ed students and maybe the discussion hasn't come up yet of what do we do and how do we do it, right? This is he did an awesome job. And again, I asked him, can I share this? He goes, yeah, please, more people the merrier. So let me know if you have any questions on that as well. One other question that came in before I pause, questions came about PDFs and how to make them editable for students. So I put in some links in here. The easiest one is if you're using a Mac or your students are using a Mac, they can just open it up and preview and they have anything and everything to do in there pretty much that you would really need. Obviously Adobe Acrobat's a great one. If you have licenses for that, it's a little expensive. There's a free trial though that you can do. But my favorite is DocHub. It's just an extension or an add-on to your Google Drive. So typically when I open up an intervention, I can save it to my Google Drive if I want to, or I can download it and upload it to Drive. If you share it via Google Classroom, it will already be in your student's Drive. So you just have to make sure that they have DocHub. All they do is click DocHub and then they can circle and write all over the PDF and then they can save it and share it with you back in Google Classroom. So Doc Hub's a great one and an easy one to do, and it's totally free. So I like to share that one with you. And then there's lots of PDF, that should be PDF, not DF, editors online, just extensions for your Chrome browser. Obviously, Seesaw is also an option as well. All right, I went over a little bit, but I am here for questions, and I saw one came into the chat already, so I'm definitely gonna, could these links be shared via email? Yes, in my follow-up, Jackie, I will send it to everyone, the link to this presentation. And also, obviously, it's short, but pretty much every slide has links to more resources, which you're probably on resource overload. So if you just want to email me back, where was that one link, Ashley, or what was that suggestion? I will get back to you today. Awesome. Any other questions? Make sure I was able to see everyone who was able to join us. And I think we got most people in here. Great. As you hear me typing, I'm just throwing my email in the chat, which makes it very simple. Yeah, if you have any follow-up questions today or early tomorrow, um, definitely reach out to me. Oh, thank you, Laura. We're here to help you. And again, I will always say this, like, I am the biggest rah-rah fan of educators. I know how hard everyone's working right now. Um, we trust your professional judgment. I can't stress that enough. So many people are seeing such great success with spring math and seeing student growth that they want to continue on with it. But maybe start small. Don't overwhelm yourself or set those expectations where you're going to get responses from every student every week. You probably won't right now. So definitely, take care of yourself too. Yes, right now, exactly, Laura. Laura put in the chat, it will be a relief that they can't mess it up. Exactly. Right now, it is touch base with those students, do some conceptual understanding, do maybe some practice problems, and that might be all you can get through that day. And then by the end of the week, if you can get some scores from the student saying, okay, what was your best score this week? And put that into the system, great. It's going to be, that's probably where we're going to have to go with a lot of this. And then a great question came in. I teach kindergarten and my classes completed the class-wide intervention for the year. Typically, once we finish, we start introducing first grade spring math. Is there something I can continue? Yes, absolutely. Great question. So one, I'm very impressed that your class did that. That is outstanding. So if let's say you want to move on to next level skills, what you can do is when you're logged into Spring Math, and this is good for everyone to know, you can just click on screening assessments. And if you want to look at what's coming up the fall of grade 1, so I'm looking at what they're going to be screened on in the fall, sums to 6, I could go to the support portal again, and I could pull out some of those acquisition lessons if I want to of those skills, or maybe the skills leading up to it. So let's see, in this case, it was sums to 6. So I can come here and I again can pull out a sums to 6 PDF and then start working on that. You might be able to move on to little sums to 12. You also then have subtraction. Here we go. I believe it was subtraction 0 to 5. So you could pull out a 0 to 5 option as well. So definitely great question. Just peek at that screening tab underneath your name in Spring Math and see what's coming up the next year. I know a lot of our special ed teachers use this tab as well to set goals for their students in the following years as well, or to look at what they're going to be screened in the spring and maybe set that as a goal. So great question. Wish I would have shared that with the group yesterday. And yeah, you can share just the practice pages you want, or you can share the conceptual understanding with the practice pages, whatever you choose. Awesome questions. Now, I will hang around for the next 8 minutes, but if you're feeling good, you're feeling like that's, information overload right now, but I will email you if I have questions. Please do. Or if you have questions in general or a question about a protocol, please just email support@springmath.com. Our team again is awesome. We'd love to help you in any way we can. And sometimes we're starting to train some new people on our support team. So even though I might be responding, they're typically following the thread so they can kind of start learning some of the new concepts in there as well. So definitely we love getting things in the support portal that, help our new colleagues learn a little bit more. So thank you, everyone. If you're done, you can just click out for the day, and I will send a follow up. Thank you so much. Thank you for the thank yous too. This makes my day better. So have a good one. And I look forward to talking with you all in the future.